The butterfly effect is the concept that a single action, no matter how small, no matter how seemingly insignificant, can alter the course of the universe in massive, unforeseen ways. My favorite exploration of this concept in the media happens in the episode of The Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror 5. In one of the stories, a broken toaster sends Homer back in time, where he quickly finds that his actions have ramifications that greatly change his own present day in bizarre, unpredictable ways. Another exploration of this concept that I hold in such high esteem: the time YTMND users did it. It was in 2001 that a young programmer named Max Goldberg would sit down and watch the film Finding Forrester. After watching the film, Max would go on to register the domain you'rethemannow.com, based on one of the lines Sean Connery said in the film.
You're the man now, dog.
But Finding Forrester is over 2 hours long, filled to the brim with Sean Connery saying stuff. Max could certainly have picked any other line to be his website. Perhaps,
Punch the keys, for God's sake!
And one of the greatest YTMND fads of all time explores how much things would be different, yet the same had he done so. So for this episode of Tales from the Internet, let's take a look at PTKFGs. This video was sponsored by Dragon Raja. Dragon Raja is a fantasy MMORPG by Archosaur Games, where you can be whoever and play however. Its stunning graphics are like carrying a AAA console game around in your pocket. Explore the massive open world. Maybe you want to be a prick and walk into some traffic and cause a traffic jam. Maybe you just want to have a nice day and play at the snow, or have a coffee in a cafe, soak in a hot spring. Maybe you want to scare yourself a little and hole up in a creepy, mysterious hotel in Tokyo with nothing but 2 flashlights and a broken TV. Tons of unique interactions are waiting for you in this game. And it's a game with extremely deep character customization. You become the ripped beach bro you always imagined yourself to be. Or maybe you want to be a Michelin star chef. Maybe you want to meet your soulmate and then have a kid. And here's the thing, when your kid grows up, it'll help you fight. Just like in real life. Dragon Raja, you can do whatever you want, and if you want to get started playing the game, just click the link in my description. One of my favorite YTMND fads of all time was Punch the Keys, for God's sake. And judging by how many of you over the years have asked me to cover this YTMND fad in particular, I suspect that I'm not alone in that regard. I love this one not just because it gave an excuse to revisit all of these great YTMND fads from years gone by, but also because it wound up crafting this entire lore around the whole website. A new lens to view everything that had happened in the past and everything that would happen in the future. It begins on March 4th of 2006 when user Aphex350 creates the site originalYTMNDscene.ytmnd.com. This one displays the entire scene from Finding Forrester that the line "You're the man now, dog" came from. A lot of people didn't even know that this movie is where the line came from. And some users throughout the years had been confused as to why you could hear typing in the background of the website. As some people in the comments noted, hearing it all together like this almost sounds fake for some reason. A little while later, a user named Raisenkari makes a YTMND entitled What Could Have Been, but now with the text punchthekeysforgodsake.com and replacing the original line with
Punch the keys, for God's sake!
Then another user, Rubba Chicken, made a site showing how the front page of YTMND would look. And now here's where the lore comes in. A few days later, a user named Humfro creates a site entitled Safety Not Guaranteed Changes Internet History. In this site, the mullet man from the Safety Not Guaranteed fad is shown at his computer looking at the Punch the Keys site just like the rest of us. And it gives him an idea. He travels back to 2001 at the launch of YTMND and instigates the change to PTKFGs. And since we know, even the smallest changes to the timeline can create the biggest changes, you gotta ask, what else would be different? So at this point, just about every single YTMND fad you can think of from throughout the years gets its own Punch the Keys for God's sake version. Now with the PTKFGs watermark in the upper left corner instead of the YTMND one in the upper right corner. There's too many variations to go through them all, but so are my favorites. Tom Cruise kills Oprah becomes Oprah kills Tom Cruise. The Picard song becomes the Sheridan song. Lindsay Lohan doesn't change facial expressions becomes Lindsay Lohan changes facial expressions. Brian Peppers becomes Brittany Gingers. Any DM becomes any EM. And of course, the bombing emails, a dramatic reading,
and literally ran out the door. LOL.
becomes the bombing emails, a dramatic reading.
And literally ran out the door. Lamau.
But now instead of a lawsuit threat from E-Bomb's world, it's a letter of praise and a merger proposal from D-Bomb's house. A letter that also makes reference to the time Ask Jeeves bought Google. Everything that was once old was new again, and then it gets even deeper. On March 15th of 2006, Typhlosion creates another site. What also could have been, which brings us to the world of YesYes.com. Another site using another line from the same scene in Finding Forrester where Sean Connery goes,
Yes. Yes.
and this gives us a whole other universe, now yes in green on the bottom right corner. And we get alternate sites like the Solo Song. R2-D2 doesn't change facial expressions. And the Skeeter letters, which were sent from E-Bong's world. Obvious next question then. So you've got PTKFGs, you got yes. What's supposed to go then in the fourth corner? This winds up being a highly contested topic. There are those who believe that, like the other three, this should also be a line from that same scene in Finding Forrester, but there wasn't much left to work with. The most highly agreed upon one was heh.com, based on the heh he lets out in that scene. Although along those same lines, there was also typingnoises.com. And Typing Noises had a little bit of its own thing. It was a world without humor. A world in which instead of driving fast yelling LOL internet, Ronald McDonald drives safely. A world in which Brian Peppers is not in the mailbox. A universe where Doc Lewis asked permission first, before riding Little Mac's bicycle. And then another possible fourth corner universe was YTMND.
You have the manners of a goat.
This one instead took a line from the Highlander movie. There were dozens more attempts at creating fourth corner YTMND universes. And on August 19th of 2006, a user named Whetstone tried to wrap them all up with a little bit more lore. Fourthuniverse.ytmnd.com. This YTMND told the story of how Riker from Star Trek rescued Xenu from Scientology, allowing him to escape to an alternate universe. When Xenu escapes, he's able to stack frozen bodies in every volcano in the universe. Doing this creates an explosion so big that a multiverse consisting of all of these alternate YTMND worlds exists in the fourth corner. This explanation ties all the pertinent lore together, but it's not necessarily accepted as canon. I have a proposal of my own. So, we exist in the YTMND universe. The universe in which YTMND is the real website. Let's call it Universe 1. And inside the YTMND universe, we create Punch the Keys, for God's sake. Let's call that Universe 2. Also created in our world is Yes, Universe 3, and the fourth corner universe, Universe 4, whichever that is. These universes exist as fictional websites created in our world, and they can be observed from our world. But say our world was the Punch the Keys, for God's sake world. All of a sudden, that is our Universe 1. What would our Universe 2 be? You might be inclined to say that that would be Yes, or maybe YTMND. But considering that every website that's made in the Punch the Keys, for God's sake universe is different from the ones that were made in the YTMND universe, not only is the alternate universe not necessarily yes, but it's actually unlikely. We can see Punch the Keys, for God's sake, but that doesn't mean that they necessarily can see us. In the way that the impulse to create the YTMND LOL internet in our universe was exhibited as OMG internet in the PTKFGs universe. The way oh really becomes are you sure? The way the impulse to create PTKFGs when you're already in the PTKFGs universe would be expressed in a totally different way. Maybe the person sitting there would have thought, oh, what if I took a Sean Connery line from a different movie? Leading to a third variation where they picked a third Sean Connery movie. And then maybe one of these iterations is You Have the Manners of a Goat. Meaning that when we think we're seeing a fourth corner universe, we're seeing another universe's second or third corner universe. And you can go down in this direction infinitely. So essentially, maybe every single one of them is a fourth corner universe. Maybe there are no fourth corner universes at all. Maybe everything that we're seeing as a fourth corner universe is a first, second, or third corner universe. And maybe relative to them, they're viewing us as a fourth corner.
And perhaps, relative to them, we may be one of the possible fourth corners.
I'm gonna get a goddamn Nobel Prize for this one. But anyway, that's all for the story of Punch the Keys, for God's sake. If you like this video, check out my video about safety not guaranteed. I'm out.